So, good afternoon, everyone. I wish everyone, happy International Working Women's Day. And there is nothing like I'm the queen. No, I think everybody is that, every woman is that, and every day that they are. So it is not just something about the International Working Women's Day. It's about every day. And so when Mr. Anand called me to, come here and talk about the Working Women's Day for a few minutes, like about 15 to 20 minutes. So I was trying to understand who I'm going to address. So I was told that this is the women of the public sector who've been major contributors of the economy here. So, but still, why there is always this big buzz when it comes to Working Women's Day, but when it comes to Women's Day, and it is always celebrated only among these days. The other rest of the days, we are like, back to work, back to normal chores, and back to normal, other burden also. But it is only on this day, it has come to that. But then, what is the history of the Working Women's Day? I'm not sure how many of you know. Probably many of you have read about it, but still, I would like to recall a little bit about that, because no Women's Day speech will be fair without the mention of the actual women who fought for it. So the first, Women's Day, it was not even Women's Day, but it was something like women coming out together on the roads, and they demanded 8 hours of work. So this happened for the first time in the United States of America, Chicago city, and where textile women, a lot of working women, working class women, unorganized sector working women came out on the streets demanding 8 hours of work. This happened in 1886. So when that happened, it was a movement against huge organizations where they demanded, where they were actually exploited with a huge amount of work. So these women came out and they said, no, we need our rights. We cannot be working like bullocks, forever. So we need this 8 hours of work time allocation. So when the women came out on the streets, a lot of support was enmassed for them, and it was a Chicago strike, famous Chicago strike. You can Google on it. But then what happened, why it became an important historical event is because there was a police brutality on the strike, and police firing happened on the strike, and a lot of people died. It happened on the May 1 of 1986. So after this 1886, after this event is what, in later on in history, we celebrate that as the May 1 International Labor Day. So that happened. But then that was the first time when women came upon. It was not just some labor, all labor came upon. It was the women who came upon on the street demanding the work hour shift. Right. So that happened. And then the later on, Women's Day, internationally, it went on from US. It eventually went on to other countries as well. And then in, I think, 1889, the first in the socialist movement, women movement, kind of got set up in the German country, and then they decided to have a women's International Women's Day, and then it was eventually in the second Socialist Women Conference that was held in 1910. That is where Clara Zetkin, one of the major women leaders, she proposed on the idea of celebrating an International Working Women's Day across the globe. So 1910 was when it was actually set up. Like we will have an International Working Women's Day. And then eventually it was celebrated in the year 1911. And that was celebrated in March 19 date. It was not still March 8th. It was celebrated on various different dates over the years, over the decades. So it was in 1911 that they decided to have the Women's Day celebration, Working Women's Day celebration in March 19. Even on picking up the March 19 day, they have a history for that, where again a lot of working women tried to overthrow a monarchy, a century back in the Prussian state. So they picked up that date, and it was, quite in the European countries, Austria, Germany, Denmark, and Switzerland is where it was actually celebrated in 1911. And then we came about to March 8th in the year 1917, when Russia actually picked up the Women's Day celebration as well. So in March 8th, 1917, Russia was actually celebrating Women's Day already. But then again, they picked up that year, March 8th, as a Sunday. But then, whatever design, whatever democratical design that we are living in today was, I can say, it was born on that day, on that Women's Day celebration. Because it was the working class women, it was the textile working class women, it was the unorganized working women who came upon on the road against the monarchy, against the Tsar monarchy in the Russian state at the time. And they came out on the road and they demanded, there was a war going on at the time, so there was no food, and all the men in the family were put on the war. They were all dying or unwarranted about their lives. So these women came out on the streets. They were literally uneducated working women. They came out on the streets and they said, no, we want bread, we want peace, and we want our men back from the war. We want our soldiers back from the war. So that particular movement, picked up, and that particular day, March 8th, I mean, at the time it was a different calendar, so it was a different date at the time. But then eventually when we all actually set up into the English calendar, it became as March 8th. So it was that day that history was made, and the women came out on the streets. They called upon the men on the other working factories also, and they enmassed about 180,000 of people together on the roads and at Petrograd. So it became a huge mass, and it was kind of a celebration, a movement of the working class celebration. And that's how eventually it became. It was a success. It went on for 3 days. It overthrew the monarchy, and that brought the first socialist state power in the Russia, which became a sketch or a map for so many countries eventually in the world. So that became the first base for the public sector also in a government, in a state. So that was the base of the March 8th women celebration that we go on celebrating, ever since then. And then later on it was acknowledged by the United Nations, United Women, and so on and so forth. So many things happened. But then, so it started in that sense. It started in a very revolutionary feeling where women came on the streets and they started fighting. We know our own women who have been on the war. We know Nachyar, we know Jhansi Rani, we know so many women who have taken up, to stand against any kind of oppression. We know that. So it was the historical reference of the day goes to that. But then what we have come to today, so how Women's Day has come up today, has, it has come up to, please don't be offended, no offense, but it has come up to, pink colors, and it has come up to greeting cards. It has come up to just some kind of a joyous, jolly celebration, rather than, giving up on all the revolutionary feeling that women used to have. Why is that? Why? Because, the patriarchy system, the patriarchal system, I'm hoping everyone can get the meaning of the word patriarchal system. So the patriarchal system has this huge influence on our own Women's Day as well, and they wanted to shrunk our revolutionary feeling into celebrative jewelry and all such as greeting card and rosary days. So but then so this is what it has come to eventually because of the neoliberal policies and so on and so forth. But how have the women evolved still? We can see that in every sector. We can see that in both the private sector, we can see that in the public sector, we can see that in terms of the achievements women have made throughout history. We can see how women have enmasked themselves and soared so high in the field of science to anything and everything, in the field of invention and everything. But then it was not a road of road of roses or a bed of roses. It was not an easy path. We are here because a lot of women have lost everything, have fought at every step of the way to come to where we are. But and when it comes to India, Indian women has been as ferocious as the women who have been the base of it. Let it be the Chicago working women, let it be the Russian working women or the Germany working women who have been the base of this International Working Women's Day. And Indian women are no lesser than any of these women. We have been very strong. We have been very with fervor we have built this country. People used to say that Indian agriculture is the backbone of the Indian economy. But then, did you know that Indian agricultural women are the backbone of the Indian, agriculture itself? But then, where is the recognition of the women who are in the agriculture? They do not even have the piece of land on their thing. But then but still they have strived, still they have come up, they have built on the base of the economy on that. Same goes as as far as the public sector is concerned, same goes to that as well. While madam was talking about the representation of women over here and the leadership quality, the leadership percentage in the private sector and the public sector is huge. I have worked in the private sector. Just after my college, I was in, I was just in the 2000 period of, education passed out person. So it was then that the new corporate sector was coming up, new liberal policies was coming up, so the new millennial ideas was coming up, and when I got my first salary, that was about 15,000, and then my whole family was like, we've never actually had that kind of a salary. So the private sector was like so glossy, it was very showcasey and all that, but then what kind of safety we had at that place was still a questionable thing. There were no safety on the job, there were no promise on the safety on workplace, and so many other things. There were no career growth as well, but then we thrived. There are so many of my friends who still thrive, but then there is no insurance of welfare, there is no insurance of future in the private sector. But then when we came out, we got all that, we were working, and we faced a lot of stuff. But then when we try to compare the public sector with the private sector, there is always this thing, at least in Tamil Nadu, even in the Indian population's mind, where it's like, if you can get even one simple job, even a corporation, sweeper job in the public sector, in the government job, then it gives you an security feeling. So that kind of an understanding is what we have between the private and the public. But then eventually, when I try to look up on the participation of women in the public sector, in the participation of women in the private sector, the exploitation. In 1880s, we saw the women coming out and fighting for the 8 hours work shift. But then where are we now? We are in the post-COVID period, and it is not even 8 hours anymore. It is about round the clock work for the women. So this is what I guess that is the difference in the private sector and the public sector. At least I have friends who have been working in the private sector, who were asked to work on the work from home scenario, and the girls who are working 24/7. It is not just about, at least when they have had a work environment, they had this opportunity to get out of home, escape the home chores, and then you go on, do something, you work something, you earn, you had a feeling of liberation, you had a feeling of independence. But then COVID put everyone back in the box again, where our work burden has become huge again. But then again, here when it came to public sector ensured a lot of safety again here, which was totally contradictory to the private sector. So this is all on terms of the labor that we actually put back into the society. There is no the kind of percentage of work on women, both on family and as well as on workspace. When we compare that, it is like nowhere or far higher than the men actually. When men work about to 37 to 40% on a whole, when the contribution on workspace is about 30 to 40%, the women actually work more about 57 to 60% on a on the working, in terms of putting the labor out for both as in the workplace as well as in the family. So women has been this working machine forever. They're working in the home, they're working in the workspace. There is no gap. But then at least in the workspace we have some kind of a recognition, we have some kind of wages or a payment, something ensured for us. The kind of work women put on the family is like not accounted anywhere. There are so many studies that says the work of the women in the family chores, the cooking work, the sweeping work, the maintaining of the house, the washing of the clothes, it is for some unknown or probably known patriarchal reasons, it is always put upon the women. Then these works are not accounted at any point at all. These works are not accounted into the GDP calculation of the country. So, but then there are movements, women movements across the globe, which is still arguing, which is still writing thesis, which is still writing so many research papers, how this, contribution should also be included. But then, again, it will not be a fair thing. So, as far as the working women, for the day's title of working women, it is not just about the women who are working on companies, both private or the public, but it is about women always working. When you're a woman, you're always working. We are always working women. There is nothing called non-working women. So, we are always working women. We have this day forever. But what are the difficulties we keep on facing? That is another thing. It is no bed of roses for us, for us to come over the years till here. But it is also no bed of roses for me to finish my degree and come up over here. It is never at all. It is never at all easy for me to come where I am. It is not easy for anyone to come where you are today, for anyone, for any women. It has been difficult. We feel the difficulty both in the home and also in the workspace. So that is like, the patriarchy very well, glowing, very happily or amazingly working its way in both the ways at house as well as here. But then apart from this, there are other larger threats that keep on trying to stifle us and try to contain us both at home and over here. So I saw one of the video that Ms. Gauri was talking in the YouTube today. She was talking about, I don't know if anyone has seen it. So she was talking about this important research that one of the organization in the America has released about the Indian women. So, and the first thing that she was saying was where it is women in India are always told what they are to do. There is, we have come here, we have come to the private sector, we have come to the public sector, we have come to the neoliberal policies, we have come to a different 21st century and all that. But still we are told what we are to do. We are not free enough to do what we want to do. That is one thing. And the second thing she was saying, whatever problem that we face, any kind of sexual harassment that we face, sexual harassment is one thing we talk at every place, because in my opinion, no woman might even as well be a queen who has not gone through a sexual harassment at a given period of her life. So sexual harassment has been there, and at least in the Indian society, it has been a parcel and parcel of the system itself. We face that at every point. We face that many women face it at home, many face at the bus that they take to get to the office, they face it at the workspace, they face it at the police station where you go to get a solution from, and then again we face it at the judiciary, which is supposed to protect, with various laws that has come up. So it has always been a hard path for women, but still we thrive. We keep on thriving, but still we thrive. So whereas when sexual harassment is one case, I think again I would like to point out the difference between private sector and public sector, where sexual harassment, the kind of workplace sexual harassment protection, protection for working women from the workspace has been more prominent and more better in the public sector than in the private sector. We've been in the private sector, we'll have so many compliances teams or committees where many of the working women will not even know that such is existing. So but then most of the public sectors they are to have such an compliance committee, and they are in compulsion to let their women know that such a facility is available, and this kind of facility, this kind of process itself gives a kind of protection. I feel that it gives a protection for the women over here, because it kind of will probably scares a little bit the no offense to any of the men here, but then it probably scares a little bit of the process that is in place to protect the women. I think this is very much possible in the public sector than in the private sector. In many of the private sector companies, we had to somebody has to identify or discover that such a process is there, and they'll have to bring it out. The implementation of these kind of committees is another thing that that kind of an implementation we still face even in the judiciary, where we still have a lot of problems in implementing various strong laws that are in place to protect the women. But then again, in comparison to the private and the public sector, still it is far more safer over here. But then, however safer it might be, it cannot be a reason to for women to go through what she has gone through. So in that case, the sexual harassment at workplace is one thing women have constantly go through. Sexual harassment at any other point of from one point, from home point to when for whatever reason that she steps out, and for what and then when she get back, so it is a big place where she's still very much open to such a possibility. So that is the actually scenario as far as sexual harassment is concerned. I'm just going in a very because of the 15-20 minutes which I've already crossed, probably I'm just jumping through this and that. But then again, when sexual harassment is one thing which we keep on fighting, me as a person from a women movement, we've been very rigorous about it. We take it very personally if any such cases happen, and we try to find a solution for the survivor. We don't even call victim anymore the person who has gone through the sexual harassment. We call them the survivor. So that is one thing. The next thing I think is the gender inequality that we see in the society. Sexual harassment is one thing. I mean, every woman is seen as not as a woman or as a citizen. Women are always seen as a second citizen in this country, but then more than a second citizen, they are seen as a product, a kind of a glamorous product that can be that is at the right of any men. That is how women are always perceived. And it has a lot of reasons for that point we have come to. We are in a, where family plays a major role in what it is today, where the state plays a major role in what it is today, where the law plays a major role in what it is today. But then that is one thing. The next is the gender inequality. Again, when Ms. Gauri was talking in the video, she was saying how gender equality is very much prevalent in India. I think India is a very much patriarchal country, so it is always about men being what it is. Even though we have a lot of women leaders, a lot of women who have contributed in a freedom struggle, in the emancipation of the society, we in the education of the society, but then there is no kind of recognition that women leaders, we cannot see women leaders anywhere. We can always see some kind of a man politician standing in some high statues anywhere, but not women. So that is how it is. That is the fact. Even in the 21st century, that is not a fact just in India. That is a global fact as well. There are women who are, women are fighting for gender equality in every country. It is not just a matter in India. Even in the European countries, even in the American states, even in the American countries, it is the same case. But then how women have still thrived upon all this and come up to all this, how they were can I get a little bit of water? how they have jumped up all the hurdles and come up to what we are today. Again, we can see that is only because of the will we have got from our foremothers, and how we have pushed out throughout this historical phase of the women participation in the society itself, in the human society itself. Okay, so that is one thing. So I was talking about sexual harassment, and then there is a gender inequality. We are as a society what it is, but then how we can come out to the kind of education that we have got. I think I can talk about Savitri Bai Phule. No offense, but then we have a Teachers' Day celebration, but then where again there is respected honorable former Prime Minister Nehru was the, thank you, respected former Prime Minister Nehru was the, we identify Nehru, right, for the Teachers' Day celebration, right? No, sorry, Radhakrishnan. But then still, who was the actual identity of the education movement in India was Savitri Bai Phule. I'm so sorry. Again, it is a male leader. I'm not able to keep up. But then Savitri Bai Phule was a leader from the Maharashtra. She was in the period of 19th century, I guess. And Savitri Bai Phule and Fatima was a friend who was in the Maharashtra. And the kind of discrimination, the kind of shame that they went through to take education for women, to take education for the oppressed is like, unimaginable. I guess we are again here today in this space because of that kind of a contribution. When Savitri Bai would step out, to teach to oppressed children, and even to teach, when she step out to teach, she will be spit on. She'll be, people will, spit on her when she goes, and people will have this cow dung thrown at her, and they will humiliate her in all manners possible, all unspoken manners possible. And by the time she left from work and to the place where she teaches, she'll have another sari hidden in her under her arms. So she'll go to the next point, she'll remove the, she'll clean herself, she'll remove the sari that was, humiliated with, she'll put on the new clothes, and then she'll teach. This is how it was taught. This is the contribution of Savitri Bai Phule. Savitri Bai Phule was the first teacher, in various, under various, historical date understanding. Savitri Bai Phule was the first teacher in the Indian society, and she was a woman, and she went through all this along with the friend Fatima, who went to teach people, children, oppressed children. But then where is the recognition of Savitri Bai Phule? So there is no recognition. But then this is the kind of a gender inequality our history has gone through. Even though we might be here, even though we might be able to dress up finely and come out, there is this discrimination, gender inequality discrimination we definitely face at the workspace also. Well, ma'am was telling, there is a huge number of women GMs, right, GMs here in the organization. It is a huge achievement, I guess, which is almost impossible in the private sector. It might be there very rarely, but still it is very much managed by the patriarchal system. So that is one thing. And then another thing for the working women that they go through is the pay gap. So this is again a universal thing. Pay gap is something universal. All the working women go through thing. I don't know, you all must have heard in the HR, in the private company, when you go in, the kind of questions an HR, a male officer might ask some young girl, they will have no right to ask, when are you going to get married? You can actually sue somebody for asking such a personal question, but then they'll ask, when are you going to get married? And if you're a married woman and who's not, who hasn't born a child yet, and then the next question, do you have plans for pregnancy? That is such a personal question. But then I think in the private sector, it is so easy. Any man can ask, any HR can ask actually this girl about this. Any team leader can judge a girl's achievements based on her marital status, based on her personal family planning status. So that has been the case on the private and the public sector. And the kind of work achievement, the kind of leadership role that they get into will be completely cut off from these kind of basic understanding of the men who sit at the place, who make the judgment on the women, who might have gone through so much of hellish fight from the family background to even study and to even step out and to even earn 1,000 or 2,000 or even a 10,000, any kind of pay scale. So you come through all this fight, you go to a company, you face all this question, you still get through the company, and then you sit on the workspace, you work. And then what happened? You are never paid equally to a man, to what a man gets achieved. I mean, you work more, you work in the home, you work back in the office. The amount of percentage a working woman puts is more, far more than a man, but still the pay grade is completely off. It is not just again a case just in India. It is a universal case. It is a universal case where the women's work house chores are not at all regulated anywhere, where her working labor is not quantified or not recognized in the right way. And so she goes through all this, and still we thrive. We keep on thriving, So we thrive at the home, we thrive at the public commute that we take, we thrive in the workspace we do. And when we get the pay slip or the paycheck in the hand, it is going to be a little lump lesser than what the man who has gone through all this same process in a very easy peasy manner gets. It's going to be far less weighter than what he gets. So that is how the system has been. But then women has always thrived. So what we are today, what we have come up today, however, this Women's Day, the Working Women's Day, might be lessened to what it was. I mean, however revolutionary it was, however lessened it was, there is always a revolting feel in every woman. I have felt that. So I come from the North Madras area, and my mother studied only about 10th standard. My father never studied, he was a driver, but then he worked in Bharat Petroleum. At least we had that kind of a safety as a public sector family person. But then, because I came from the North Madras, there was a lot of, family issues that we had. I had no shame in that because it is what it is. My father was a lot, he was addicted to alcohol. He was alcoholic. My mother came from a family where she had very happy family, where you see in all these kind of Tamil movies, you'll have a very happy family, there'll be no problem, that kind of a family. But then when she got married, she was also from Raipuram only, not Madras. But then when she got married, she went to Kodungayur, and then she saw the whole Galata family, and she was quite shocked, because it was quite very authoritative and patriarchal family. Hers as well, but then it was even a bit more measured higher. So, but then to be under an alcoholic family system is not at all easy. I have always told many of my friends, I am one testimony, live testimony, me, my mother and my brother, my family, where we can keep on opposing the task mark forever. But then my mother, she never studied. She promised to give me education. She promised whatever turmoil the family was in, whatever chaos the family was in, she promised that we stepped into the school the next day. She promised that we had sleep that night. And she pushed us into the education that we got. I did my English literature. My brother did his BCom. But then it was my mother, who was not very much educated, who was very fearful, who gave me that. So, however, this kind of revolutionary feeling might be diminished, I think every woman has that revolting feeling in their sense, in their heart, in their soul, and that is why we are here, and that is why our children, or our girl children particularly, are going to spaces, and that is how we can, coming out here, we can again bring in a very gender equal possibility in the future as well. Again, Ms. Gaudi was saying in this video, where it is always upon the women to say, you have to teach your son, you have to teach your husband, you have to teach your brother, you have to teach your cousin, all the men you have to teach. Why should it be a matter of women always teaching men? It need not be like that. But then to eventually evolve out as a society where we can celebrate gender equality, which is, I mean, a society which comes out with an equal gender is the only society that can go into any kind of emancipation as a society, or a development as a society, or even as a perfect democracy itself. So it is, I think it is women like you all here. I am sure, I'm very much sure, because that I've seen that in my mother. I'm very much sure that we all have that revolutionary feeling, revolting feeling in our hearts, which we carry, which we are, always passing out to the children, of the next generation, where the most important job in our hands is that we pass that on with more a sense of gender equality, with more sense of responsibility. That is one job, even though it might be accused as a job of the women to teach the son or the husband or anybody, but that kind of a societal change we bring. Not just, your presence in the public sector itself is one thing where it is contributing to the economy in a humongous way. But again, let us not just stop this feel of women's speciality, not just with one day, but carry forward to other days also, carry forward to our families also, because it is from our family we, bring a better society out. It is our family, we bring better men to the state, to the judiciary, or anything. So it is also our responsibility, I think, to give back. I'm sure, all the women will do that. I wish you all a revolutionary Working Women's Day again. And if you have any questions, you might as well ask. Thank you so much. It could be anything, please. Anybody, we can talk for a few minutes.
Madam is giving an opportunity. If you have anything,
at least today we should be able to talk, please. Nobody has anything to say, you can.
Mike.
Yeah.
Anyone, any questions to Madam? Thank you, ma'am. Your speech was very informative. I would like to tell that actually I asked Anand sir about you. He said the first word was feminist. I think Madam don't need that word to get us as an introduction, because the way she orated, the way she spoke, we have identified you as a feminist, ma'am. And also, Madam is a social activist, as Madam told. And additionally, she is also a journalist. She has quit her job to pursue her passion to serve the poor, women, and downtrodden people. She has made many impossible things as possible. Actually, in Triplicane, there was a slum area who were denied of electricity. But Madam made it possible. She got electricity for all houses in slum areas. She has made a remarkable achievement, which was impossible for the people for 30 years. She made it. So special, I want the applauses to be loud. And while ma'am was speaking, there was a famous, we all would have seen that movie Chandramukhi. Madam, when she was speaking about her family, we could see that in her face. We could, and that time really I identified her as a feminist. And then Madam spoke about sexual harassment, gender inequality, and the different fields, the different women where and all they have achieved, their fields of achievements she has discussed. And really it was very informative, ma'am. And here I also want to make a point, like a wise woman will never like to be anyone's enemy. A wise woman will never like to be anyone's enemy, but on the same time, a wise woman do not like to be anyone's victim. A wise woman do not like to be anyone's victim. And then thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Here, one more thing I want to say that madam was getting so many opportunities from many MNCs for a very good salary, but she has sacrificed everything. She was for her intelligence and potential. She got many more opportunities, but she has chosen her career to work for women, poor and downtrodden people. This is really a very like we as a woman want to thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And at this point, I also want to make up want to appraise our DGM also. Our DGM, she stands as an inspiration for all of us. Really, we are very proud to say that we are headed by a woman. Madam has, since she has come from Cochin, she has made a presence in our RO Chennai. She is very she's self-confident. She's very energetic and dynamic. Her dedication and hard work towards her job is always a motivational factor for all of us. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.